OMG, immediate action. Just step foot into my room. And I kind of just gotta go with the flow. I, not too long ago, went, today, went to a capstone performance. So, the graduates of this year in the theater, like the bachelors of arts, but like within the theater department, they had a capstone assignment, and it was basically just a performance, and it touched on so many different topics. Like, I'm inspired, but also I want to say in some ways healed. You know, when you hear other people talk about their experiences and it heals a part of you because there's like representation of certain parts of their experiences that align with your own experiences? Yeah, that's what happened to me today. Like, I really enjoyed the acting displayed, the gestures, the charisma of the different characters, how everybody brought something different to the table, how everybody kind of really lived in and leaned into their personas that they were trying to convey. Like, it was, like, geez Louise. I even decided to write something about it, a little piece, which serves as my piece for the day since I try to get something in every day. But yeah, I'll just read that. It doesn't have a title. It never has a title. This I didn't think would get done because like I said, I just got in and it's kind of late. But it's still within the time frame of today, which is May 1st. The first video of May of 2025. We're just going to start reading the thing. It's this long. This long. So go. Your eyes swell before the scene even starts. What do your cells feel? It's instinctual for you. This isn't the birth to a new ability. This has always been with you. Yet, it's as if you've left this ability in the womb, dark and protected from the world. Perhaps it grew, too, waiting for you to develop control without the wickedness. A sickness carried and created by shame in oneself for feeling anything at all. If only it only brought you despair. And you know that. Yet, the veil was required for you to truly see. Unveil the wave crafted by the cells of your unique emotions to walk the path one's instinct guides them down. Now, I feel like that has an abrupt finish to it, yet I'm finished with it. And I leave quite a few of my pieces like that as to not to not push myself, because I have pieces within a week where I will push myself to go further. And if anything, I kind of have to push myself with that. Like, I was thinking of how to start it because I was thinking about how I felt from the performance that I had just watched. I was thinking about how my eyes were swelling a bit even before anything started or before certain scenes. There were therapy scenes. There were scenes of, everyday life or reality of college life, since these were graduates these were people that were graduating. So it's gonna have some college elements to it, which it did, which made it relatable and made it more alive. Like, made it real. They didn't have like an academic speech or script to it. It was very natural, and in it being natural, it was very relatable, and in it being relatable, it touched me. It hit parts of my heart with concepts that honestly I don't necessarily think about all those concepts that were showcased, like alcoholism. I don't necessarily think about therapy, but I think about the things that one would receive or reach out or access therapy for. I don't necessarily think about the stressors that may come to me as I get closer to graduation, although that's undefined for me. Still, the date at least, or the year at least. I don't think about the stressors, I think about the stressors of the now. But in me having stressors of my now, I can relate to the stressors in a way. It's not as if I can, relate as if I've experienced what they're experiencing before. And shoot, I can't even experience what they're experiencing in the same way that they experience it. But still, like, in the way that I have my own stressors, I can empathize with theirs, which was nice to do. I liked putting myself in a place where I was able to do that, even if it is just a storyline. These storylines hold truths to them, or the storyline held truth to it. Just mwah. And the conversations, I'm not going to say I had a bunch of conversations today that had me go like, wow. No, but I did have a conversation about Christ with someone today. An African man. I believe he is from Nigeria. He mentioned Nigeria. He mentioned Nigerian family. So I'm going to go with that. And if I'm wrong, sorry. I am sorry. Regardless, he's of African descent. He asked me if I was of African descent. And he asked that because I said that I didn't necessarily know what I identified with as far as religion goes, because I don't currently identify with anything. However, I am reading the Bible. And I'm reading the Bible because I believe in God and I want to grow a better relationship with God. I feel like that's important, and I feel like reading the Bible to do so is important. I feel like interpreting the Bible is important to do so. But I guess I was with my friend and I said something. I was like, wait till you get to this part. And I believe it was the part with Jacob and one of his sons that had passed away, I believe. One of his sons' wife. And then the line of the two sons that died in some way, shape, or form, even though I know the way, because of either their way of life or because of what they were doing or not doing with the wife that they got granted because one of his sons had died. But anyways, I was like, wait till you get to that part, because we were just reading. I was reading and she informed me of what part she was on, and I was like, it just gets wilder from there in terms of our modern norms, accepted norms. Ways of perceiving sex and who it is. I'm looking for the word to hold, please, like I'm holding. Acceptable to have sex with, although sex itself is a whole nother conversation that I personally won't be getting into, but yeah, moving along. I said that, and then moments later I get an excuse me in an African accent, not making jokes about the fact that he has an accent. I'm just telling it, okay? I'm just telling it. And he asked me if I was Christian. And I was stuck. I did not know how to answer the question, even though I knew the answer to the question. It was, it's interesting when you're doing something that kind of relates to being affiliated with something, yet you're in this limbo of knowing where you stand, but knowing where you could stand. But in regards to what I'm really trying to say, it's like I'm amped up. It's like I got a lot of energy right now. But the reason why it's like that right now is because, and I'm probably talking pretty fast, which I usually am a little bit more, but when I get up here and I'm thinking and I've been thinking, and then I cut this on, because I haven't had the opportunity like this where I cut this on and I'm like, ooh, let's just go, fa. I'm taking advantage of the fact that I walked through the door thinking, and now I get to spew all the thoughts out. But anyways, let's get back to what, when you're in a situation where you know the answer to something that someone may question you with, like the answer to a question that someone may give you, but you're not prepared to answer the question. And not even in regards to that specific question, I've been thinking about that every week, at least once or twice a week, about the fact that you can't actually prepare for conversations. Like, you can prepare yourself, you can know yourself, and you can be self-aware, but also aware of the things around you. You can be spatially aware. You can pick up on things in people, or pick up on things or energies surrounding you. But when it comes to conversations have their own wave, kind of like emotions have their own wave, and you are riding the wave. You are not in control of the wave. You have to hop on the wave. You have to hop on the stream and align in your own way with the stream of thought that will occur in a conversation. So that's why I feel that you can never really truly prepare for a conversation. And I used to be very fearful of the fact that you can't control that. You have no control within that. But these days, all I do is, these days, I just ride it, hop on in my own way, and go from there. I don't settle on the fact that, oh my goodness, I don't know what to know. No. You talk to yourself enough to know how to make things move along still and still have a natural flow. You just have to trust that you know, and give yourself the ability to make the mistake that you might make in a conversation. Like, mistakes, whether that be giving the wrong information, being scared of being wrong, things like that come up. You have to give yourself the opportunity to essentially fuck up in conversations. But you hear people? Yeah, that's because I live in a residence hall. Yeah, sorry. But yeah, he asks me that, and I eventually come to the conclusion that, yeah, or I eventually say, I don't identify as a Christian, but I'm still going to read this Bible because I feel like it's important for the relationship that I have with God. And then he goes on to tell me his experience and his struggles that he had in coming to identify with Christianity, because beforehand he wasn't. He struggled with his temptations and such. And he kind of just expressed that to me. He expressed to me what I could do to receive the word, like I could go to church. But the conversation continued, and we talked about family to an extent, because he asked me if my parents were Christian. And let's go back to the fact that he asked me if I was like Caribbean or of African descent, because he said it seemed like I was. And I'm like, oh, shoot, I assume, look at me. Technically, all people that look like me probably are of Caribbean or Afro and descent. But we don't know, nor are we connected to those tribes. We have to do reading. We have to integrate ourselves in ways that allow us to connect with that level of the root. We have our roots that we've created in this country, but we have roots that we originated from. And in order to connect with the roots to which we originated from, we have to read, and we have to connect, and we have to do a lot of different things. And these are just things that I'm thinking of off the cuff, but if I were to write about some of this too, I feel like it would be even more, and it would have more complexities to it rather than what I'm just saying right now. But yeah, he asked me about my parents. He asked me if my parents are Christian, which they are not. They are not Christian, nor do they really believe in the church, and I understand why. He was the one that brought up the reasons why. He was the one that brought up, this is a church. Why are you essentially taking my money and using it for the self? Not to say that, okay, pastors don't need money too, but, there are situations within the church that one might not agree with, because everybody is sitting up here and they're trying to survive. And people believe in the church so much, or believe in their pastors, or want to give so much to the point where they will forget, I feel, or I don't know, that faith-driven act of giving will override the fact that they are surviving. In the same way that the pastor is likely surviving. And then he also brought up, the sexual assaults, the infidelity that can be acted on by pastors. And he showed me something that he had posted like 3 hours ago when we had our conversation about how it's okay to not align with your pastor or not agree with your pastor, especially if he sways from script and he is not living the life of Christianity. You know how they say, I'm going to use my locks as an example. Having locks is a lifestyle in its own way, right? To have them is a lifestyle. Having them may erupt or unveil certain things in your life that you didn't necessarily, maybe you didn't necessarily know were there, or it's a process with which you're growing with your hair, essentially. You are growing with your hair. Your hair buds, you're budding in your own way. That kind of thing. He essentially said, well, Christianity is not just a religion, it's a way of life. Just like he said something else that will stick with me, and it was perspective changing. People will think, or people will identify the church with a location rather than thyself. Like, I am the church. If you are Christian, or whatever religion that you are, or whatever religion that you practice or hold close and hold true, you are that. You are the temple. I think that was very perspective changing. It's not the location. Forget the location. It's not to say that it's not important. It's also not to say that there aren't churches out there and pastors out there who are doing a lot of what we may define as right, is just to say, ultimately it's you, and ultimately it's your connection that you have with the Most High. Really loved the conversation. Really loved the interaction. Really did. We also talked about judgment and how people have to essentially get out of the state and or I would call it the practice of judgment, because it can make your heart bitter, essentially. And I like the way he said it more. He had a very thick accent, but he told this to me. He was like, I know I have a thick accent, but I can tell that you can understand everything that I'm saying to you, or that I appreciate you for actually listening. Which I'm like, well, I do that with a lot of people, but he did have a thick accent. Yet, I understood everything that man was saying. So, yeah, I just enjoyed the experience. But back to the judgment thing. Yeah, how it can make your heart bitter and it can cause you to stray from God. And honestly, I think it's you trying to actually, I'm going to think more on that one, because I've thought this thought before, but I want to think on it more, so I'm not going to say it. But he essentially was like, I could have the thought, and he put, observations, observe, this girl has holes in her nose and rings in her nose and whatnot. He brought in the example of, okay, well, just because I might not necessarily think that a woman should wear rings in her nose doesn't mean that I'm going to judge her, and in this case, you, for having it, just because you're not living your life in the way that I would or wouldn't do, if that makes sense. And I'm like, yeah, people do have to kind of crawl themselves out of that judgmental state. Regardless, I liked my day. This is one of those star days for sure. And I guess I'll show my art from today that I would love to make into an actual piece. Maybe a painting. But I also, just in general, let's get to the artsy side. I want to think more about the ideas that I have when it comes to drawing from my mind and drawing from imagination. I can let my hand glide against my paper all I want and create things and create faces that either represent what I'm feeling at the time or just represent the flow that I'm in. I have things that I gravitate to when it comes to me drawing. But since I mentioned a freaking star, I'm going to show you a little star-ish. It's not really a star, but that's what I envisioned when I put those little things right there. But yeah, and as I was doing it, I was thinking about everything that I was thinking at the time. And I had on this YouTube video about creativity, which I've been doing quite a bit. But honestly, it's funny because unlike what I used to do when I was younger and I would look up stuff about, how to do this, how to do that, how to get better at this, how to get better at that, I'm actually doing the thing that I want to do at the same time while I'm watching it. So I think that's big ups for me. That's some progress for sure. That's a change. That's a shift in its own way. More shifts to come, but this has been swell, but it's time to sleep. Yep. It's time to And you know what I'm saying? So, bye people.